listener production.
Hey, Chris Spear with you. Welcome to The Briefing. New weight loss medications like Ozempic and Monjauro have surged in popularity in Australia, and while many might be celebrating this new tool to drop kilos, others are looking toward what it might mean for the future of food.
Most of the time, it's not only the person in the household who's using the drug that's changing, but most of the time, think about a dinner table. It's very unlikely that one eats a salad and the rest eats a burger, so everybody has to play a little bit along.
That deep dive into Ozempic-style meds and how it's reshaping the entire food industry is coming up in the second half of this episode. First, though, let's get into the headlines with Sacha Barbour Gatt. It's Tuesday, December the 9th.
Hey Chris, and to you listening, we are starting in New South Wales again today, where communities already hit by bushfires are bracing for conditions to worsen today. Warmer, windier weather is returning to the state, impacting a blaze still burning at Bulahdelah on the mid-north coast, where a firefighter lost his life on Sunday night.
Our firefighters put their lives in harm's way to protect our community every single day. There is something deeply Australian about people who will put themselves forward to protect our community in their time of need. And this firefighter's loss will be felt so deeply across all of our organisations here in New South Wales and right across the country.
That was New South Wales Rural Fire Service Commissioner Trent Curtin speaking there. Now, the 59-year-old firey who passed away had been overseeing backburning operations at the Bulahdelah fire when he was hit by a tree and went into cardiac arrest. His death is the first on the toll for the 2025-26 bushfire season.
So far, 20 homes have been destroyed in blazes that flared over the weekend, both at Bulahdelah and also on the Central Coast at Coolawong, while in Tasmania, another 19 homes were destroyed in a bushfire on the East Coast at Dolphin Sands, where locals have complained about official communications on how to evacuate.
It was terrifying. We were just watching it, thinking that it's all gone. You could see flames in front of our house, behind our house, around our house.
That audio thanks to the ABC.
Now, this is being looked at as a pretty ominous start to the season, with authorities and experts warning we can expect more of the same this summer right across the country. Now, the official bushfire season starts in October and runs through to March, with things like hazard reduction burns meant to happen in those off months, Chris, between March and October. But there was heaps of rain in August in parts, which meant that those hazard reduction burns couldn't be carried out in key locations. And the rain has also seen a boom in growth, which means there's plenty of fuel for those fires to burn through.
Yeah, and the seasonal outlook is warning long-term rainfall deficiencies in parts of Victoria, coupled with more fuel to burn in parts of New South Wales and Western Australia, and also spots in Victoria, will lead to an increased risk in these locations. Aussies in bushfire-prone spots are being told to make sure they have an emergency plan in place and to keep up to date with what's happening in their area.
The former nurse who murdered 24-year-old Cairns woman Toyah Cordingley will return to court today for a sentencing hearing. 41-year-old Rajwinder Singh was found guilty by a jury yesterday. Singh cut Cordingley's throat on a secluded beach in far north Queensland in 2018 before fleeing to India, where he spent 4 years in hiding.
The jury heard from more than 80 witnesses across the 4-week trial, spending around 7 hours before returning their verdict yesterday, which was a bittersweet moment for Toyah's mum and dad.
It's not so much a great day or a day to celebrate for us. Today is a big piece of this journey that needed an ending, and most of all, justice for our Toyah.
Today's verdict has delivered a form of justice, but for us, there can never be true justice, as we now live in a world without Toyah, and the world is a poorer place for it.
Toyah was walking her dog one afternoon in October 2018 when she was killed. Her body found half buried the next morning by her dad, Troy, who had spent hours searching for her along Wangedi Beach. He could be heard telling Singh to, quote, rot in hell as the verdict was read out.
Now, this was the second time Rajwinder Singh has faced trial for Toyah's murder. The first one ended back in March after the jury was unable to reach a verdict. And Toyah Cordingley's death 7 years ago did lead to a huge outpouring of grief in far north Queensland, where hundreds marched against violence towards women.
Former Deputy Prime Minister and One Nation's newest MP, Barnaby Joyce, says Australia has been slow to embrace the new wave of right-wing politics sweeping the world.
Australia's late to the party, whether it's Farage in the UK, whether it's Le Pen in France, whether it's Melino in Italy, whether it's the MAGA movement within the Republican movement in the United States. This is a phenomenon that's happening across the world, but now it's happening in Australia, where people are more decisive and saying, I want sort of a more fuller colour in what I see in my politics.
That's him speaking on the ABC last night, and apologies for the technical difficulties. You could see him playing around with his little earpiece. Horrible
microphone.
Now, that all happened a couple hours after he formally made his defection to Pauline Hanson's One Nation. A reminder, he resigned from the Nationals last month and was like, I'm a free agent. And he was like, I'm not going to Pauline. And, well, he ended up in Pauline's party.
It was that beautiful Wagyu steak on the sandwich press that won him over.
Must have been. Now, look, he did say there was no deal between him and Pauline for him to become the party leader, as is widely speculated, saying he's focused on representing his electorate before having a crack at the Senate at the next election.
I'm going to focus on the people of New England for the next 2 years, and then I'm going to be putting my best foot forward for the people of New South Wales and give them a reason as to why they would support me as a senator for New South Wales.
Now, in this 12-minute interview, he was asked whether he endorses One Nation's long-running vilification of ethnic groups in Australia. Here's what he had to say to that.
I don't believe that there is a vilification by Pauline Hanson on racial groups, and if you can give me something the contemporary of what she said that actually vilifies racial groups, then I'm happy to answer that question.
And I'll just jump in because I could hear Sarah Ferguson going, oh, excuse me, and I'm going to do the same. Pauline Hanson literally 2 weeks ago rocked up to Senate in a burqa, okay? Barnaby, we don't need any more proof than that. Look, he was also asked about how he felt being part of a party that doesn't accept the science of climate change.
I'm absolutely ecstatic about being part of a party that does not believe in the swindle factories, the capacity investment schemes that are ripping off people, putting pensioners into poverty, driving our cost of living through the roof and achieving no change to the climate whatsoever.
Yeah, we'll see if that strategy works. And we've been talking for months really, Chris, about how the support for the Liberals in polling has gone down, while One Nation's has gone up. I don't think that's from more people going, oh, you know what, One Nation's anti-climate change and anti-racial group policies is for me. It's right-wing Liberals who feel like their party is going to centre and they're defecting to One Nation.
Yeah.
So, I think that Barnaby feels like maybe he's waving this right of popularity, but I don't think it's going to work for him.
Yeah, and I also feel like Barnaby's part of that cohort as well of people who are feeling disenfranchised by the offerings of the coalition. And he's like, well, where can I get some satisfaction? And he's seen that in Pauline Hanson. Historically, a little note here, they have clashed over the way she's spoken about certain groups in Australian society, specifically Muslims. There was a moment, but realistically, Pauline constantly does equate the actions of extremists to all Muslims. And that's something he's called out. He said that that's, demonising Islam, and that's not appropriate to do in Australia. She's previously referred to Islam as a disease that Australia needs to be vaccinated against. He called those comments at the time bat poo crazy and plain dumb. So now we do have a change of tune in Barnaby, and it'll be very interesting to see how this relationship shakes out and how it works out over the coming years.
Our electricity bills are going to be more expensive in 2026 after the federal government announced it is ditching billions of dollars worth of rebates. Now, you might remember this was Anthony Albanese's budget sweetener we got back in 2023, with all families and small businesses given $300 towards their energy bills, which came in the form of $75 a quarter. And over 18 months, that has cost the government $7 billion, Chris.
Yeah, so why now? Why we're going to be seeing this go? Well, we reported last week on the RBA governor's warning that government spending is contributing to a rise in inflation again, which will likely put pressure on interest rates in the new year. The Treasurer says this decision is the first of a number of hard ones he'll have to make as he looks to avoid another year of intense cost of living pressures.
Yeah, and speaking of, it is the Reserve Bank's final cash rate announcement of the year today. It is expected to stay on hold on 3.6%, but most economists now agree that after a very brief reprieve this year, which I'm sure a lot of people with mortgages were enjoying, we can expect interest rates to start going up again in 2026. And as I said, that's something thousands of families will be worried about as we head into the new year.
And 4 Aussies have picked up nominations for the 2026 Golden Globes. Jacob Elordi getting 2 nods for Best Supporting Male Actor in Frankenstein and Best Male Actor in a limited series in the Aussie show The Narrow Road to the Deep North. Sarah Snook has scored a nod for Best Female Actor in a limited series, and that was for her role in All Her Fault.
Hi, I'm Marissa. I'm here to pick up my son Milo.
There's no Milo here.
Ooh. Now Rose Byrne is up for Best Female Actor for her role in the comedy drama film If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. What a strange title. While Joel Edgerton has scored a nom for Best Male Actor in a drama film for his leading role in the film Train Dreams.
Yeah, but meantime, the big winner when it came to nominations today was Leonardo DiCaprio's One Battle After Another, which scored 9 noms. Some other key contenders, ones that you might want to hear about, cult Netflix hit K-pop Demon Hunters is up for Best Animated Film.
The world will know you as pop stars, but you will be much more than that. You will be hunters.
Yeah, and the streamer's other major hit, Adolescence, has been nominated for Best Limited Series.
Well, I suppose the other thing I think of in relation to the word masculinity would be how masculine men feel about women.
We're back on that, are we?
Yes, is that okay?
Yeah, that was a super intense show. Very good, very deserving nomination there, I think. And the Wicked sequel, just because it's in the headlines at the moment, in case you were wondering, it did miss out on Best Picture nom, but it did score 5 nods. Now, my pick of the year, which was Sinners, which is an absolutely incredible film, got 7 nominations.
Congratulations. My pick didn't receive any nominations, and that was one Miss Jennifer Lopez for her incredible role in the I didn't watch it, but it was a musical film called The Kiss of a Spider Woman. But the reason that I mentioned this, Sacha, is because she posted a bunch of clips around the lead up of the film, just promoting it, and here's a little clip of her in rehearsals. Give us everything, J-Lo.
Oh,
yes.
What I would do to have her confidence.
Correct. And look, I do urge everyone to go watch that video, because the way that she ends that video, like she killed it, is everything and more.
Yes. Okay. That is it for headlines. Before we let you go, though, remember, we have a survey we would love for you to take part in if you are listening to this. And it's all about what you want to see from us here at The Briefing next year, what sort of stories you like, what sort of deep dives you want us to cover, what you maybe don't like.
Ooh.
Maybe you don't like a certain host or two. I don't know.
Geez, okay. But you know what I'm sure they do like, Sacha Barbour Gatt? $100, because that is what is up for grabs if you fill this out. The link to that will be in the show notes. Definitely click on that this morning. That is it for headlines. Up next is your deep dive, Sash, looking into the role of Ozempic-style medications and how they are reshaping our food industry completely. Stick around. That deep dive is coming up for you next.
By now, there's a good chance you know at least one person who is using Ozempic or something similar to lose weight. The popularity of GLP-1 medications has absolutely exploded, with around 500,000 Aussies using one regularly, according to recent research. And while we can't say whether it's to treat diabetes, which was the initial goal of these meds, or for weight loss, the surge in prescriptions tells us that more and more people are taking them to drop kilos. The trend is even more advanced overseas, with an estimated 30 million people in the US having tried Ozempic, Monjauro, or Wegovy for weight loss, and Europe seeing similar figures. With all that said, have you ever stopped to wonder what that could do to the world's food supply? That's the subject of a recent paper by RaboResearch, which is saying the huge uptake of GLP-1s around the world is already having a ripple effect on eating patterns, marking a turning point for food consumption. So what does that mean for us, for our farmers and growers, and for the future of food? Stefan Vogel is RaboResearch's Australia General Manager, and he joins me now. Stefan, thanks so much for joining us on The Briefing today. We're talking here about huge changes to how the world is consuming food. What does that look like according to your research?
Well, we are looking at a global perspective here at the consumption of GLP-1, so basically drugs that are used for weight loss purposes. And we see that in the United States, for example, the adoption rate is above 10%. That means that if you think about a population of 330 or so million people in the US, 10% of that, that's more than Australian population in total, and they're all on that weight loss drugs. So with that, the amount of people that are changing is rather sizable. We also look into the UK. We have 6 to 7% of the population there, and it's not much different in many of the Western European countries. But even down here in Australia, we see that about 2% of the population is on the weight loss drug, and especially since it has been approved not only for diabetes purposes, But for weight loss, we've seen a staggering growth in that private sector consumption.
So what does that actually then mean for food consumption? Is it just that people are eating less?
It means they're eating less, but it also means they're changing what they're eating. So maybe let's think it through. First of all, it is a shot. So right now, we actually think that still holds a few people back from adopting it. But if you think down the road, we are expecting that there will be a similar drug, but in a pill form. So that might open up the road for more people to actually adopt it. So we think the amount of people that will use it might even grow further around the world. And we see also strong growth in Asia, which is an important export market for us. So with that, Australian population matters to our food producers, but also the export destinations in Asia, Europe, and the US. Now, what changes is that it reduces the hunger. So basically, I'm eating a little less if I take it, but it also changes my craving. So, those chips in the evening or those sweet bakery products. So we see that especially the calorie-dense, fat-related products, so they are all showing a decline. There are studies in the United States showing a significant drop for those products, heavy in calories, big in fat, sugar-rich, and that can also be sodas, not only the food side of things, but also what people drink. The things that are winning are in the more healthy category and protein-rich calories. So why protein? Well, it's not only that people are losing fat when they're taking the medicine, but they're also losing muscle. And to counter the muscle loss, it's important to increase the intake of protein. So you see protein-dense yogurt and dairy products, for example, rising. Protein bars and protein-rich meat snacks, for example, rising. But also healthier food, especially from the fresh produce aisle, are also a winner in that basket. But overall, the study shows that there's about a 6% reduction of the basket size. So people are just buying less. So with that, we see a 5 to 6% loss of a lot of the food that people are consuming. So it's not a complete revolution in terms of trends for the food industry, but it's actually speeding up some of the trends that we anyway had out there. The change might actually be that it might last a little longer. We all know that, that diet is working pretty well in the first week and going for a jog and a run. But after a month, it gets pretty tough. So with that, we see actually that the change is a little longer lasting. We also see that most of the time, it's not only the person in the household who's using the drug that's changing, but most of the time, think about a dinner table. It's very unlikely that one eats a salad and the rest eats a burger. So everybody has to play a little bit along. So we also see that there is a bit of an impact across the whole group. But yes, the food industry obviously is thinking in terms of high protein, healthy food for quite a while. These snacks and so on are less on the table because people are craving them less. So sitting in the evening and eating a whole bag of it is getting less and less. So with that, the food industry is taking that pretty serious, these trends, especially in the US, where it's been around for a few more years than it has been here.
Yeah, so say a company that makes chips and chocolate, the unhealthy foods, the calorie-rich foods that you were talking about, empty calorie-rich, I should say, because calories are good for us, we know that, but empty calories are not good for us. How are they pivoting then? Like, are they going, okay, well, we need to ditch making chocolate and start making low-calorie dark chocolate? Like, are they looking at those sort of things seriously?
Well, I think maybe let's look at the winners rather than the losers. So if you walk across the aisle these days, you see a lot more dairy products claiming protein. You walk even through the breakfast aisle, you see that the typical cereals that were just a little bit of oatmeal are now actually protein clusters. So with that, we see actually that the companies try to think, well, what products do I produce that could gain more interest with the consumer if I find a way to label them in a way and also showcase that there is some ingredient in there that actually ticks some of the beneficial boxes. So will chips company give up on chips? Probably not. I'm not taking the drug and I'm not really sure I will ever take it, but that's already what tells you. I think there's a lot of people out there who look at it and think, well, do I not? What are the side effects? What could happen? But the interest in the drug is obviously pretty strong. And that's also what a lot of the food companies need to think about. It's where we will be in 5 years and 10 years' time. Will we just reach a ceiling that it's just a certain amount of the population? Or will we see actually that there are more and more? And we also see that people usually don't take that forever, the drug. They take it for a while and then they lose some weight and then they stop taking it. and they may or may not regain the weight. And so with that, we need to look at some of those food studies in a few years to actually see, is it a lasting trend or is it something that just goes through waves? But overall, I think if you look at the amount of population, it is something where the food industry is really very concerned, or not only concerned, but also interested to see where are the winners and the benefits.
Is there concerns or are there predictions that here in Australia, our farmers and our growers will be impacted by these trends?
Well, let's think it through. We are producing quite a bit of sugar in this country with sugarcane, especially in the Queensland areas. We still think that the world needs more sugar, but the growth of sugar consumption has anyway already been slowed for various reasons. It's not only the Ozempic, but we also see that there are many regions in the world where they try and reduce the sugar calories. On the meat side of things, I would have actually thought, well, meat is rich in protein. Maybe the meat industry could win because they sell some protein-rich meat for countering the muscle loss. We see in those studies for now that actually they pretty much drop the same amount as the basket size shrinks. So they're not a winner, they're not a loser, they're just doing what the average does. If we're looking into some of the higher protein products, this year is a year where we produce a lot of pulses, a lot of peas, high in protein, vegetarian, but most of it doesn't go to the GLP-1 users. It actually goes into the industries and into the areas where people are vegetarians. So think about countries like India. So with that, we don't see that the farmers are yet winning from this. And if you think about the protein burgers, that alternative meat that is produced these days, in many countries of the world, they actually show a declining trend. So they increased very quickly to a certain level, but they're declining because people also, when they take this drug, think about, is it highly processed or not, the food that I'm eating? And some of those meat alternatives are actually pretty highly processed. It will not mean that, well, nobody will ever eat a chip again. That's not what we are. Nobody will ever not drink a soda again. That's not where we are. But if you think about a food industry, they also look at what are the trends where we may win more and quicker than in the industry where we are. Where do we see more growth? So that's how the industries, I think, are taking it for now. But yes, there can a lot happen. And we know it all with medicines. There's always a side effect to everything in life. And so let's see where we will stand in a few years.
Stefan Vogel, thank you so much for your time. It's a really interesting piece of research that I'm sure the food industry is keeping a very close eye on.
Thanks for having me, Sacha.
That was the head of RaboResearch, Stefan Vogel, speaking with me there. And that is the end of this episode of The Briefing. A reminder, we would absolutely love it if you could take our listener survey so we can know how to bring you more of what you love on The Briefing in 2026. It's quick, it's easy, and you get to go into the draw to win a $100 voucher. The link is in the show notes. I'm Sacha Barbour Gatt. Thanks in advance for filling that out, and I'll see you next time.